What's up everybody, this is 13 with Superior Mobile ByThirteen. It's about 2:30 a.m. right now. I just finished up this build. It has been a very long day. I pretty much estimated I'd finish right around 2 a.m. and I did in fact at 1:55 a.m. So I am stoked, and let's go over what I got done today. First of all, this is Rashi's 2016 Dodge Charger. It's a V8 Hemi for whatever that's worth. It originally had the stock HID headlights on this thing, which means these cheapy little projector assemblies in here, these D3S HID bulbs, and the ballasts are still mounted to the housings because they're providing the actual seal. Apparently what originally happened a while ago was his headlights stopped working and he got quoted for a repair, presumably for a replacement of the ballast, and that price point sent him into my loving and welcoming arms. But as we all know, custom headlights is a very slippery slope, so a $400 original quote of a repair turned into a over $2,000 custom headlight build, which is a lot of fun. Spoiler alert, by the way, this was actually the problem. The ballast and bulbs are still fine, but as you can see here, the fuses were not fine, and these ended up with some quite a problematic scenario for me later on, troubleshooting out why my aftermarket HID system was not working, because those burnt fuses were allowing voltage to come through but absolutely no current. So even though the headlight circuit would go from 0 volts to 12 volts, it wouldn't even have enough current in order to trip the relay. So in case you have the stock HID system and your lights go out, check your fuses first before you start going spending any money on expensive parts. With that out of the way, let's focus more on what actually got upgraded, because first and foremost, the projectors are now Morimoto MD2Ss, my favorite projectors in the world. They are an HID system. It's now running a 50-watt HID system, so it is significantly more powerful, way brighter, way better cutoff, way crisper, way cleaner. We love it. That was the first and most important priority, which was just basically to make sure that he was able to see at night, going from no headlights to very, very good headlights. But referencing that slippery slope again, he saw Eric's Charger, which had the BlueGhozt controlled flow series products on it, and he said, I want something similar to that, and so here we are. This is similar, but it is not the same. So I'd like to go over what the different products that I used and how that changes things. Now, as you can see, I did not retain the factory diffusers in this setup. We went a different approach and I used these white diffuser tubes, and I absolutely love this setup on this car because the car is white. I'm not so sure I would love it as much if it was on, say, Eric's green Charger or maybe a black one or something, but the white complements the vehicle so well. I just love it. It looks like it belongs, but it looks custom at the same time. But these are little white diffuser tubes right there that have flexible RGBW addressable flow series strips inside of it, and they also match an RGBW flow series halo that is around the projector, and that also has a white diffuser shroud over it. Now on this particular install, I did something that I hate doing and I so rarely do, which as you can see is the wire method, where basically I use that halo baling wire or whatever, which is what everyone else does, and I always make fun of installers for using that because I think it looks tacky because you can see the wire. Let me explain my reasoning. On a previous build that I did that had a flow series halo and I put that diffuser over it, I originally had epoxied them together, and that product had eventually failed after a year or so. However, in retrospect, the product failure had nothing to do with the way that I had epoxied the diffuser onto the halo. It was actually a corrosion issue. But while I was doing this build earlier today, that was what was on my mind, and I went, oof, I don't really want to have another failure, so I'd rather do the halo mounting wire instead of the epoxy technique. And actually, in retrospect, I really regret that decision because everything else is so clean, and I wish I hadn't done that, but it is kind of already done. Pointing out some other cons to this system, although the white diffuser is fabulous because you can't see any of the LEDs, it isn't exactly a perfect diffuser, and it doesn't conform perfectly either. So you can kind of see it has some sharper angles in there. It doesn't perfectly bend, but it does a really good job. Honestly, it looks great. I like being able to get really up close and personal and criticize my work. You can see that one's got a little bit more of a noticeable, it's kind of chunky, I guess is the best way to say. It's not as smooth, but of course by the time you're about 3 feet away, you can't see it anymore, nor can you see the wire if you're 4 feet away. So it's certainly not like it's got anything to be embarrassed about, but definitely worth considering because there are pros and cons to each system. Using these tubes is slightly more expensive than using the actual DRL drop-in boards that go in here. However, it's a lot less labor if if you are looking to not see the LED boards, because with the other method, you're looking at several hours of labor for grinding down those diffusers, and this required maybe only an extra hour or so of labor of soldering on leads to make the LED strips work how I wanted them to work. Speaking of, actually, that's a really big deal on this one, because normally what everyone does is they make those two strips, they make them completely parallel with each other so that the data going into that one is the same as the data going into that one. I wanted to try something new on this one, and so I seriesed all three of these products so that I would have more ultimate control with the BlueGhozt module. And I gotta say, man, it turned out fan-freaking-tastic. I'm super happy I made that decision. It was worth the extra effort because I could set the offset. You can see that these two strips don't actually start perfectly in line with each other. So when people set it up that they have the same data input going on, they're always slightly off kilter going on an angle, and I can get it set up so it's perfectly straight and sweeping across. Enough talk, let me actually demonstrate it so you can see what's going on here. Check it out. Do you see how it's perfectly straight up and down? And then as it comes across, it just sweeps right across there. Let me get the perfect angle so you can see that. Ah, how do you not love that? I do. I certainly love it. And then also the ability to count per individual LED as I am setting up the BlueGhozt module has been extremely helpful for dialing it in and making it look and operate completely perfectly. Here's another example of something as it scans across and it looks really cool. This one I really like because it demonstrates the building blocks on and off mode. So right now you can see that it's scanning across, but once I turn it off, everything goes independent. And this is another thing that you can't do when you have those two strips tied in parallel with each other, is I can have different operations going on the top as compared to the bottom. So here's a really obnoxious one that will scan across the car back and forth. Ta-da! This one's pretty cool. You can see it bounces back and forth on itself. Now this is really going to show off something pretty because again we're having different on the top as we have on the bottom. So it just gives a really, really beautiful glow. Everything's operating independently, and you would not be able to get this if you had wired those two in with each other. If I turn on the building block, as you can see now, it will fade completely across. The products all in sync with each other. And again, just a really, really classy, beautiful look. I love this setup. Of course, don't forget that with BlueGhozt, we have startup and shutdown sequences. Tapped into the parking light circuit. As you can see, I have it set up as the Chiron. And then this is the turning off of the vehicle. On this charger, I set up the turn signal as the bounce feature, which I thought was pretty cool. My favorite part about it is the fact that I could time it perfectly with the OEM turn signal, so it actually bounces as fast as the blinker goes, which is really nice. Going for a quick drive, you can see the cutoff of the lines there of our headlights is just fantastic. We can see all the way down the street, even though I'm not even on the street yet. Whoa, that is cool. This, by the way, is a very dark road that has no lighting on it. This is generally where I aim my headlights, and if I flip on the high beams, you can see that I can see all the way down to the end, even though the camera doesn't necessarily pick it up. It is a fantastic light output. 50 watt HID setups, D2Ss. We got a little black wall over in the recycling center, and that is how bright it gets with the high beams on. So these things are no joke. Definitely very pleased with them. Significant improvement over stock. Hope you enjoyed driving around the block with me. Thank you so much for watching. This is one of my favorite charger builds that I've done to date. I think the combination of products is superb, and it is certainly a full package deal. Pricing and product information for this particular build will be in the video description, so be sure to check that out. Every build is custom made to order, so pricing will vary according to the features selected. All build inquiries must be emailed to me directly, and that is again in the video description. Thank you so much for watching. This is 13 with Superior Mobile by 13. Have yourselves a wonderful evening. I'll talk to you later, guys. See ya.